All right, everybody. Welcome back to Occult Perspectives. Thank you for those of you that have been watching. Hopefully you're learning a whole bunch of new stuff that you can add to your repertoire. Originally, I had planned on continuing the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram series, but in this video, I was really called today to start talking more about Saint Germain, and in particular, the I Am teachings, because they are so powerful. And it's the newest spiritual tool of my arsenal that I've really been utilizing, and it's helped me to flip the switch in my mind where I had a lot of like negative thoughts or whatever. It just makes it really easy to kind of rewire everything in your brain for a more positive outcome. A really brief explanation of Saint Germain. Saint Germain is one of the ascended masters who is assisting the planet right now in its evolution. Jesus Christ is also one of the ascended masters. He's the main ascended master. You know, he really is the Son of God. There's a lot of confusion as to whether, there was, most don't argue that there was a man named Jesus, but a lot of people who aren't spiritual or religious say it was just a man and he didn't ascend, and it wasn't anything past that. He was just somebody who was really kind of a figure for his time that kind of stuck out in history, and he was really influential. Some people think that's as far as it goes, but according to the channelings that the Saint Germain channelers receive, they also do Christ channelings as well. So these people, and you can tell when you read this isn't just some garbage. I mean, this stuff, it's definitely truly channeled, and you can tell, just like a religious text, maybe even sometimes more than religious texts, that it is truly inspired word. And I'm going to be playing a little bit for you. I'm actually going to play an audiobook, because I want you to hear this guy's voice. It's so powerful, and it really just, he's clear and concise, and he gets the message through. So Saint Germain, he's one of the ascended masters that's helping with the evolution. Now Jesus Christ, he's the master. I don't have all the chakras on here, but he's the master of the white light. And that's, Kether, the crown. And then the next chakra down is the purple chakra. Now sometimes the crown chakra is purple in some systems, but typically it's dark purple for the third eye chakra. And Saint Germain is the master of the purple flame. He's the master of this chakra, and his teachings are the I Am teachings. Saint Germain has been really influential. There's a lot more information you can look up on him that I might get into in later videos. But if you want to learn more now, he's reincarnated as different various historical figures in the past. Some say he was even like reincarnated as George Washington. He's very involved with the Masonic, a lot of the things that went into the foundation of the country. He's been there influencing it from the beginning, not only him, but other ascended masters too. So these I Am teachings are his teachings. I just recently got this 3-book set, so as you can see, I'm not too far in this first one, but Unveiled Mysteries. This one's talking a lot about Godfrey Ray King. He's the one that channeled the Saint Germain and had the experiences with Saint Germain. He's going on all these travels, which are really just, the I Am states that we are the divine consciousness, we are the divine source, and that everything else that is on the outside or seemingly outside, it's really just distractions, or it's energy that we've given to outside forces, as you'll learn here in a little bit, which is kind of like pulled us away from our divinity. But this first book, it's about a lot of the travels and stuff that Saint Germain takes him on. Some really cool, it almost seems like fantasy, but if you can't open yourself up to these other ideas of existence, these other realms of possibility, it's there's infinite worlds, they say, and this is just one dense, pretty seemingly solid reality that we're in right now. The second book, not really sure what all this involves yet. This is called The Magic Presence. And then the one that I started listening to the audiobook of that my friend Joel sent me, it was originally the fourth I Am discourse in this, and there's 33 discourses in all. If I have time in this video, there's a couple sections I do want to cover in the I Am discourses. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the video here in just a minute of the I Am Discourse 4, which is the one that I started with. Turn off these tones here. And as I play this video, I'm going to be pausing it to kind of comment along with it too. Make sure I can follow along in here. And every one of these discourses, it starts with really powerful invocations, and then it ends with they call it a benediction. Okay. And yeah, as you're going to see here in a second, invocations are really powerful. Sometimes the search results are different on different, whether it's on your phone or on a laptop. There we go. Okay. Keep this little tree picture in the background. I like that picture.
Discourse number 4, October 13th, 1932. Saint Germain. Invocation. Thou mighty consuming flame of God, we bow before thy mighty majestic power. We rejoice in thy directing wisdom. We rejoice in thy presence in the heart of every one of God's messengers that go forth to direct his service and energy to the blessing of mankind. We give praise and thanks that thy presence has changed the tide of things, and that thou art as always the mighty governing intelligence. We give praise and thanks that thy consuming fire and thy creative activity dwelling in the heart of every one of us are ready to be loosed by the conscious desire to action. We give praise and thanks that thou art the consuming presence everywhere, that I am there and I am here, and I am the power that makes all things clear. I am the majestic presence, I am the conquering power, I am thy mighty energy, thy consuming flame each hour. I bring greetings to you all from the heart of the creative fire. The Discourse. The creative fire that I am is the flame of God, his master presence anchored in the heart of every one of God's children. While in some it is but a spark, yet with the right touch, that spark can be fanned into a creative fire and consuming flame. This mighty presence, God, in its myriad activities, is the omnipresent activity that all may use without limit, if they only will dismiss from their recognition the outer appearance, which is but an appearance, and take their attention away from that which has bound them through endless years.
Yeah, so basically he's saying that, when you take the I Am presence into yourself, you are recognizing that you are the divine. You are the divine expressing itself in a human experience. But what he's saying is if we were to always be in the flow of this I Am, this omnipresent, the presence which we are this divine source. But he says that we get distracted. There's so many things that distract us. Oh, there's something here, there's something there. And he talks about just bringing it into the self, quieting the mind. I am master of my world. I am the victorious intelligence governing it. once you start doing these exercises and actually, doing them, you don't really have to even do them that much. If you just spend like 20 minutes a day, like reciting these, I promise you, you will see some change for sure. All right, I'm going to keep this going.
Today, the scepter of power and authority stands in the atmosphere before the single eye of every advancing student. At first, they may reach up mentally and take the scepter of authority, using it in this way until before they are scarcely aware of it, they will find it tangible and visible in their use at times. It is no idle promise that those seeking the light may again receive this dominion. When we go through a footpath in the forest, we may return to the same way if we wish, but we must make the decision. So after hundreds of years of search in the outer for power and authority, we find that anything that seems to be so is but a shifting sand, and tomorrow may be gone.
Maybe I'm the one being the distraction this time. That's all right. So he says, going about in the outside world, there's all these religions, there's all these groups, there's all these ideologies, there's all these beliefs. And you're looking for, people look for authority like somewhere else. They always look at it or for it in the external. But everything that is the external or that which is without, it's like we are creating that experience anyway. So if we take the recognition and, like he said, just grasp the scepter of power and claim that dominion, then we have it. We don't need the titles and stuff. If you know, sometimes the synchronicities start to get so wild that you can't really ignore them. And then that's when you really come into the power that, man, I really am in control of this thing. And it almost gets to the point where you can't ignore it anymore. And this is where the real training begins. You start to realize that we do create, he's saying that we do create the discord in our lives by giving this attention to things other than the I am presence.
By the rejoicing acceptance of your God dominion, you may step firmly upon the sure foundation of the rock of truth, which is God, and from which no outer disturbance can ever shake you, once you know from actual experience. Students of truth wonder why they cannot hold a firm anchor in their decision to hold fast to the God presence, which is their dominion. They do not analyze their outer expression to see what is lurking there to cause disturbance, question, and doubt. But for those who will take the authority which is theirs and probe deep into their motives, it will be so easy to pluck out the tares from the golden grain and soon be free from the disturbance that causes them to doubt themselves in the very presence of God which beats their heart. When students will be honest enough with themselves and their God, the I am presence, to pluck out by the roots anything that is causing disturbance within them, and be able to feel the mighty light and radiance of the great God self, they will require little effort in loosing the great I am presence in love and intelligence, which is an ever-sustaining power and strength, assurance, or whatever they may need, in order to hold their feet firm upon the rock of truth, which is one of the great jewels in God's kingdom.
So what he was talking about just a minute ago, plucking anything out that's really, causing disturbance or whatever. A lot of us just really don't want to face, what it is. It's like we're so stubborn, like we know the things that hold us back, from our true path a lot of the time. And I'm guilty of the same thing at this point. There's bad habits I have, things I do that, probably hold me back a lot from the progression that I could be making on the path. Personally, for me, I'm happy enough being in a continual state of learning, being able to share that light with others, and not really worrying so much too far down the path. Once again, coming back to the I am presence, I just want to work on manifesting heaven here and now. It's not something that we wait for. He says it's something that we can turn to, something that's within us. So I think something that's important right now is to work, it's always our journey. We are the ones experiencing this, and we can't force anyone along on this journey. But if you're surrounded by people, that understand these things and they do want to learn and grow with you, get those people together you know, we can help each other evolve and ascend. And it's really cool when you're in like a partnership or a relationship with somebody who gets these things. You know, they're on board with you. They want to evolve with you. You're kind of just done with a lot of the duality in the games and stuff that the culture likes to perpetuate. You know, kind of over that, really wanting to create more of a permanent place of peace where we can be at rest. You know, we're not always just running and scurrying about, and we can come to a place of, you know, really perceiving our true selves and a real place of contemplation, and do this work. But anyway, let's continue. Not sure how much longer I'm going to let this play.
Its dazzling radiance will enfold them upon the slightest invitation. O students of today, hold fast to this mighty presence which beats your hearts, whose life flows through your veins, whose energy flows through your mind. You have free will and can qualify and bless it to it your perfection or imperfection. Always remember that through your failure to turn to this mighty presence, by which you find you have created inharmony disorder, you must give yourselves ample time to gain the full recognition of this mighty power and give it full activity in your life. Do not become impatient because things do not work out as rapidly.
Yeah, that gives you a good taste of the I Am Discourse 4. Go ahead and move my camera back. But yeah, if you cannot find the I Am Discourse 4, you should be able to just type it in Google and it's the first thing that comes up. If you can't find it, just comment on the video and I'll send a link in the comments or in the description, which I should probably do anyway. But later on in the discourse, he doesn't really get into them until a little bit later, but there's some, I guess you would call them mantras. I've been calling them mantras anyway, or statements. A couple of them that I really like is, I am the pure electronic energy flowing through, filling and renewing every cell of my mind and body right now. I am the electronic energy flowing through, filling and renewing every cell of my mind and body right now. That's a really positive one for health. And just imagine like this whirling white light flowing through you. A couple powerful ones. I am the mighty magic circle of protection about me that is invincible and repels from me every discordant thought and element which seeks to find entrance or intrude itself. I am the perfection of my world, and it is self-sustained. That one's really powerful. And then, I am the mighty consuming flame that now and forever consumes all past and present mistakes, their cause and effect, and all undesirable creation for which my outer is responsible. That one's really powerful too. There's a whole bunch of good ones later on in that, the Discourse 4. But moving on, in the last video, I had started teaching the beginnings of the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram. And this is why I felt so called to, this morning before I went into work, I had started, I think it was, must have been Discourse 22 this morning. At the beginning of the discourse, because it was something I had been questioning for a while, is the I Am presence. You know, this is a more of a new teaching to me. I've been a little familiar with it in the past, but does it conflict with magical practices such as the Lesser Banishing Ritual, Pentagram, and other such things? Trying to really figure out a lot of these things. And I'm just going to go ahead and admit it now. You know, I don't have all the answers. I don't always know. What I'm doing on this channel is creating a place for discussion and ideas from different spiritual backgrounds, you know, the Eastern ideas, the different philosophies, and bring it all together in the melting pot and just see what we can figure out. And I like the I Am because it's not overly complicated. It really gets to the point. And, you know, sometimes the greatest truths, or the real truth, really is, you know, the more simple thing in the end. And me and my buddy used to joke a lot of the time because we're like, the light side, it's so really kind of boring, when you start to think about it. It's just, kind of peace and love, and we all return back to the light, and that's that, let go of the ego and all that stuff. It sounds real easy. It's not that easy. It could be. We can manifest it so we can change our mindsets so that we can come into that light. But we always joked, the dark side's always more interesting. There's always all the nitty gritty, like cool information seems to be either more like kind of on the gray path, or the dark side stuff is always more interesting. I think it's just when you start getting into stuff that's, especially if you're getting into baneful magic, you shouldn't be doing that in the first place. I just think there's some rabbit holes that are so deep, though, it's like once you go down them, like, you could really be in a bad place. So there's some things to kind of stay away from, especially when you're studying like the more dark occult stuff. I think it's more interesting to study a lot of it and not actually get involved in it, more than when you're studying like the light side stuff. As far as the light side stuff, letting go of the ego and not really holding on, anymore. It doesn't mean don't be present in this reality, but the light side does tend to be a lot more boring in a lot of those aspects. But really, once you come to the light, it would be complete and pure bliss. You would be transcended above everything. But is that really what you want to do? Do you want to just end your existence and not be a physical being anymore? It's kind of fun to be here and be a physical being. We might not be like ascended yet, which the I Am would say that that's not false either. You shouldn't say that. You should stay in the presence of... So it becomes kind of like this loop, with these spiritual teachings. And Saint Germain kind of says to like stay away from the more spiritualism stuff, which I think is kind of strange because the Saint Germain stuff was channeled, and most channeling, whether it's like starseed stuff or whatever, that's considered like in the spiritual realm of studies. But anyway, I wanted to read some passages on what Saint Germain has to say about the astral realm in general. If I can find my dang spot. There's a couple spots I marked. All right. In any astral element, there is that human desire element through which, unless one shuts his mind entirely to the astral world, will constantly find himself interrupted in a good decision, because he has left that door open to a force far more subtle than is ever found in the outer world. Many think there are good forces in the astral world. I tell you, no good force ever comes from the astral world. Any good force that seems to come from there must come through it, but it makes its own tunnel of light through which it comes. This is Discourse 5, by the way, Saint Germain. In the first place, what makes the astral world? ? There is only one place where the undesirable creation can find a home, and that is the next step to the human activity, which is the astral realm. This realm of astral activity has within it all undesirable creation, accumulated through the centuries. Therefore, it is easy to see at once that no good comes from any contact with the astral realm. It has nothing in it whatsoever of the Christ. This is super interesting because when you're working with, from what I understand, when you're working with ritual magic and stuff, you're working with the astral realm. So what does this mean? A lot of people who do like psychic practices and stuff are working on the astral realm. If you look on the Tree of Life, the astral realm is considered like right here, where you saw it is. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, astral. Number 2. Yeah, right there. And it's related to subconscious and sex as well, if you can see that. There is as wide a difference between the astral realm of activity and what some call the star astral as there is between light and darkness. However, the so-called star astral is again misunderstood. It is really called star astria. It is really an activity, not a realm, and it is from the fourth sphere. The star astria is a cosmic being whose work is to consume all possible within the astral realm and to reach individuals whose attention seems to be drawn there. This great being will sooner or later clear the understanding of such individuals and consume their desire for any contact with that unhappy realm. And it goes on to say even more stuff. Discourse 5, if you want to find more on that little section. But it's really confusing because it seems to go, a lot of the things that I have studied, talk about dealing with the astral realm. And so it really makes me going forward, that's why I felt called to make this video. And when I went to work this morning, this Discourse 22 was the first thing that popped up. And it started talking about the astral realm right away again. I heard it playing in my car this morning. It said, I had not intended to explain quite yet the undesirability of any thought or condition of the psychic plane, but the demand compels it to come forth. In the first place, the student must understand that what is called the psychic plane has nothing whatsoever to do with spirituality. So he was talking about the astral realm before. This is the psychic plane. I'm not really qualified enough to tell you what the difference between the two is. I would just look it up on Google or whatever, and see what the differences between those two planes are. I would assume psychic plane would be on a higher plane. It would be more like third eye level. Because on this map right here, there's 7 planes: spiritual, causal, intuitive, egoic, mental, astral, and physical. And so this is psychic. So I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe the third eye realm. It is a faculty of the human consciousness which can be brought into play by human beings who will give sufficient attention to it. But the individual who wishes to reach into the psychic plane alone, either consciously or unconsciously, had better never been born into that embodiment. The fascination of the phenomena of the psychic plane, I assure you, is most alluring. For those whose attention becomes firmly anchored in the psychic plane, do not loosen themselves from it in that embodiment, and it may take several embodiments to free them. Because the whole idea is to not have so many reincarnations, not keep coming back and repeating the same mistakes. At the same time, it's like the journey of life too is a sacred thing, to have. And when we come into a more harmonious way of living here on earth, that's why it's so important to manifest heaven here. It's not so much that we're running away to something else. It's like the God source is within us, and we could have heaven on here if we will but accept it. Let me see if it goes on to anything more here about... Within the psychic stratum of thought and feeling is the principal activity of what we know as the sinister force in this world. Sometimes souls with splendid inner attainment, not understanding the true reality of this of which I speak, have allowed their attention to become drawn to this stratum because of the premature awakening of this physical faculty by a semblance of truth being presented to them in some phenomena, enough to hold their attention. After the attention becomes fixed, everyone without exception will find that semblance of truth disappearing. So yeah, you're still talking about like the psychic realm there. Discourse 22, if you want to... I feel like I've read enough to kind of get the point across that when it comes to the astral, when it comes to the psychic realms, there's also a section about astrology here. And this will probably be the last little thing I discuss before wrapping the video up. Astrology. One of the saddest things I have to say to you is that many of those attempting to cast horoscopes are unknowingly drawing themselves into the psychic net and are becoming sensitized and voicing the adverse conditions which exist only in this stratum. This is one of the most unfortunate activities because the individual is so entirely unaware that he has opened his door until he's become so enmeshed that no amount of argument or reasoning will change his belief in astrology. So yeah, he goes on to, explain that astrology, it's still something that is without. It's not, when we focus on the I am, we're taking attention away from the outside, the things that are distracting us and bringing the presence within and, claiming ownership. I am the God source experiencing this manifestation. I am the master of my reality. I am the divine intelligence governing this experience. When we come into that realization, is what he's saying, is when the true way opens the door. I don't like horoscopes. I think horoscopes are silly. I think it's good to look at birth charts and such, though. That way, not to say that you have to be that, and you can't just ever go off, based off of just your sun sign, because I'm a Scorpio, but I'm a quadruple Scorpio, so I have Sun, Moon, Mars, and Pluto are all 4 in Scorpio, so I've got a lot of those traits. But it's better to know, I think, what tendencies are. We should look at astrology more as like what, it's gonna more likely be these things. I watch the phases of the moon not to say, oh, this is what I have to do, or this is gonna govern. Astrology should never govern what you're gonna do. Always come back to the I am presence, as what these teachings are telling you. Don't be ruled by astrology, but be conscious of different archetypal energies, because if you do look into those things on a more archetypal rather than just a stupid horoscope, like, how much money am I going to make? Do I have a new job? Like, how will my interview go? Just all these, like, I call them, like, muggle concerns. Like, that's all I ever see in, like, the silly horoscope stuff. But, yeah, that on astrology. One last thing, at the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you like what or what not to practice. I just want to give you some of my experience, some of my knowledge. So similar mistakes maybe can be avoided. Somebody who's hungry and seeking this information can compare what I have to say with the things that they're using as their research. This is more a channel just to kind of like bring knowledge together and then send it out again. Not so much to make a stand and say, I am right. This is occult perspectives. This is different viewpoints and such. But as we were talking about in the last video, the whole idea with the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, it's supposed to keep you shut off from like the lower realms, the Klipothic realms. And it keeps you within like this protection right here, because this would be Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, and then Oriel. So you'd be here, and you're kind of within this, as we talked before, like this box of protection. I'm going to reference again, Magic 4. Awesome, crazy awesome book. There's so much in here. Should have just left that mark in there, but I didn't even mark it yesterday. So, alrighty, here it is. Yeah, those who regard this ritual as a mere device to invoke or banish spirits are unworthy to possess it. Properly understood, it is the medicine of metals and the stone of the wise. You are completely shut off from the outer and Klipothic parts of the universe. So yeah, it doesn't make sense, that, you're keeping yourself, protected in this shell or this kind of like Merkabah type thing to, keep you protected from things that you wouldn't want. But then the Saint Germain stuff says that, anything that's dealing with the astral or the psychic realm. So now that you know this stuff, we have free will to choose, which path is right for us. Personally, I don't get anything bad from the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. I feel that it always cleanses the area. I always feel more cleansed afterwards. I feel like I have more control over my thoughts and my emotions. But I think at some point you would come to a point of mastery where you wouldn't need such a ritual anymore. Maybe it's meant to be dropped off at some point, once no longer needed. When you don't need, the presence of the archangels all the time, when you've mastered more of the I am presence, that's maybe when it's time to drop off those type of rituals. Please feel free to comment, because I am learning myself, and I'm kind of like researching and asking questions as I am teaching as well, because we are all in this great school of Earth. We're here together learning. So thank you for watching, everybody. I hope everybody's doing all right. Peace and blessings, just good energy all around. let's continue to manifest heaven on this physical plane, and it's just going to be a grand old party of just pure bliss one day. We'll all know how to benevolently rock it and kick it together. It's going to be great. So, peace, my brothers and sisters. Have a great one.